Ding, or the Thing, is an assembly gathered by chiefs who come together and discuss important matters such as warfare. This gathering is one of the earliest forms of democracy after the Greeks, but before the Iroquois conventions. But this democracy is old indeed, for Tacitus writes about Germania and their love for assemblage, especially in matters that involve war. And of course, people of higher rank and higher spendage had a bigger say than the low peasants. And so, even though it's labeled Viking democracy, we have to really present it as a Germanic language thing. Apparently, even the word thing means assembly, and the modern interpretation of the word thing or ding came out of this assemblage. And he said, they have also another method of consulting the omens, which is used to ascertain beforehand the issue of wars of grave importance. A man of the nation with which they are at war is captured by some means or other, and is put to fight with a champion of their own nation, armed each with his national weapons. The victory of the one or the other is thought to foretell the event of the war. Upon minor matters the chiefs deliberate; upon greater matters the general assembly, with the reservation that the latter case, where the popular vote settles the question. These matters too must be thoroughly debated at a meeting of the chiefs. The General Assembly is held regularly on fixed days, except in the instance of a sudden emergency arising, either at new or at full moon, for they hold these times to be the most auspicious date of entering upon their discussions. They reckon time by nights instead of by days, as we do, and all their engagements and arrangements are made on this system. The day is counted in with the previous night. Their perfect independence of one another involves this drawback, that they never reach their trusting place together nor obey the conditions of their summons. But 2 or 3 days are wasted by the unpunctuality of the latecomers, when the general opinion is that time has come to begin. They all take their seats, arms in hand. Silence is commanded by the priests, on whom now devolves the task of maintaining order. Then the king or chief, according to the speaker's age or rank or fame or eloquence, is heard by the assembly, but he is listened to rather as a man whose influential character carries weight than as one who has the power to command. If the proposal finds no favor, its rejection is signified by groaning. If it is accepted, the warriors clash their spears. Approval, expressed by the clashing of the arms, is the form of assent held in the highest honor before the General Assembly. Likewise, criminals may be charged and may be tried for their lives. The penalties vary with the crime. Traitors and renegades. It is also in these assemblies that chiefs are chosen to administer justice. Throughout the district and villages, each chief so chosen has the assistance of 100 of the commonalty, who are associated with him in order to advise him and enforce his decision. All business, public and private, is transacted arms in hand. Custom, however, forbids anyone to carry arms before the community has approved his claim to do so. When the time comes, the young man is formally presented with a shield and a lance in the presence of the assembly, either by someone of the chiefs or by his own father or his relatives. This with them is equivalent to the taking of the toga with us. It is the young man's first administration to public life. Before this, he is a part of the household. Henceforward, he is a member of the state. Illustrious birth or great services rendered by their family may confer the rank of chief even upon mere youths. Such youths associate themselves with the others whose strength is more matured and whose quality has been already put to the proof. Nor is it considered to be any sort of derogation for them to be seen in a chief's bodyguard. In fact, among the henchmen or retainers composing the bodyguards, there are varying degrees of rank conferred by the chief whom they follow, and there is an eager rivalry between the retainers for the post of honor next their chief, as well as between the different chiefs for the honor of their having the most numerous and the most valiant bodyguard. Here lie dignity and strength to be perpetually surrounded by a large train of picked young warriors is a distinction in peace and a protection of war. So, as you can see, the history of democracy amongst these northern parts of Europe are very old indeed, and perhaps even reference something much older, considering how immature in their execution of their democracy is, and that looking at it as something that was existing prior to the time of Tacitus might be the perfect solution. Though these things were present in Germanic regions, they were especially pronounced in Scandinavian eras in later periods. As you can see, Vikings are the people who have them solidified to a point that we can pin them down and go, that's what they are. For example, in Sweden, around mounds, man made and natural, they practiced a lot of these assemblies. Now, women would be present in these meetings, though they had no opinion given. And of course, children would also be present. But this is probably just because they had a representative with them. And perhaps they gave their opinion to whoever represented them prior to the meetings. Our modern Tuesday is named after the god Tyr, and in some Germanic languages, it's Dingstag. Ding being the thing day. So we know from this that there was even a modern push to this. So according to Yale, a lot of people's interpretation of looking at this democracy as being pushed into the future is a myth, and that the democracy was really stuck within the Germanic ages and parts of Europe and really did not influence modern democracy. Though some early democratic ideas were put into the Middle Ages of Europe, probably due to these Vikings, and even something like the Magna Carta seems to be expressing the freedoms in terms of the common freedoms that would have been afforded to some people like those of the Viking situation, and that they seem to parallel some of the wants in justice that someone like Tyre would be representing as a god. In Iceland, they have something called the All Thing, and they claim to have the longest lasting parliamentary government in history, though some people argue this, especially given the fact that when they first started, though they had the same principles as the Vikings, it was just a bunch of poor people gathered together, soon joined by kings or higher class people. This probably is true. While it's true that there's no king that ruled without a council for the most part in history, these councils that are democratic are very different because firstly a lot of these chiefs are elected. If we compare it to the Zulus, where it's different, where it's by birthright, and even though the Zulus were a little more ambitious than other people, and so they had chieftaincies that could give their opinions and completely change the direction of the nation, including females, like Mkabai, the wife of, oh, not the wife, the aunt of Shaka Zulu. She played a huge role in how the nation and when they went to war and how they went to war. This is different because this is birthright. Birthright via the fact that they're related to the chieftain or the king. So this is the big difference. It's not that people were never allowed to give their opinions, it's just that they don't have to represent the people at all, the general people. Now, obviously, being kind to your nation is probably the smartest thing to do, given the fact that without that kindness, the people will run from your kingdom. And as so, when the Zulu kingdom was very, very, very unkind to their people, multiple people ran into places like Zimbabwe, into places like Lesotho, Botswana. There's even Zulu people who ran as far as Congo.